All right, so let's jump right into it today.
Okay.
We're doing a deep dive into the disappearance of Donita Wilkerson from Evansville, Indiana.
Okay.
And, this is kind of unique because our main source material is a true crime podcast episode.
Yeah, it's like getting a firsthand account as the investigation's unfolding.
Exactly.
Seeing like all the challenges and stuff through the lens of the podcast.
It's like we're right there with them.
Yeah.
So it's Father's Day 2020.
Okay.
And Donita is a 44-year-old mother of 6. And, she's turning her life around after some tough times.
Okay.
She's got a new apartment. She's about to start this medical assistant program.
Wow.
And she's feeling really optimistic about the future.
Great.
And then she vanishes.
And that's what makes this case so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just that she disappeared.
Right.
It's that she was doing so well.
Yeah, it's that juxtaposition, of like things are looking up and then gone. So the podcast mentions that even just a few hours without contact from Donita was unusual.
Really?
Yeah, she was someone who loved being on the phone.
Okay.
Especially with her kids. Mm-hmm. So when her daughter Kiana couldn't get a hold of her by Sunday night, that worry started to set in.
Oh, yeah.
They had argued that morning, so that adds another layer to it.
Right.
But it's still unusual for her to just be gone.
Right.
And what's interesting about that argument is that it centered around Donita trying to obtain a gun.
Oh, wow.
Which is, that really speaks volumes about the fear that she was living under.
Yeah.
She specifically mentioned being afraid of 2 men.
Okay.
Her ex-boyfriend, Daniel.
Okay.
And his nephew, Cedric.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack those 2 figures a little bit.
Get right.
Daniel, the ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
He immediately becomes a person of interest, right?
Of course.
Because, you shared some details with me about his past.
Yeah.
And it's a disturbing picture. Multiple arrests for domestic violence.
Wow.
Restraining orders filed against him.
Okay.
And even messages where he's threatening Donita's life.
Jeez.
Like comparing himself to Ted Bundy.
Oh, my God.
And the Green River Killer.
It's not just the number of incidents.
Right.
It's the escalation.
Yeah.
Like it starts with verbal abuse and threats.
Yeah.
Then it goes to like physical violence.
Right.
And then ultimately to these messages where he's invoking like big time serial killers.
It's frightening. And, it's not just Donita.
No.
He has charges related to other women as well.
Oh, wow.
And even a previous attempted murder charge.
Really?
I find it unsettling that these charges, including the attempted murder, were ultimately dismissed.
Yeah, it raises some questions about how the legal system handles, domestic violence.
Right.
Like, were there missed opportunities to intervene?
Exactly.
Did they not recognize like a pattern of escalating violence?
Important questions to think about for sure. So now let's move on to Cedric.
Okay.
Daniel's nephew.
Right.
The second person that Donita expressed fear of.
Mm-hmm.
He also has a past. You shared some information about him.
Yeah.
He spent years in federal prison for drug dealing.
Okay.
And he had charges for violent crimes.
Oh.
But those were dismissed as well.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that the podcast doesn't really give us specifics about the nature of his conflict with Donita.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a black box.
Yeah, it's kind of unclear, which adds to the mystery.
Right.
So the family officially reports Donita missing on Tuesday, June 23rd.
Okay.
And they immediately face a hurdle.
Oh, no.
They feel like the police aren't taking their concerns seriously.
Why?
Because Donita had an outstanding warrant, but it was for a missed court date due to her daughter's medical emergencies.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't like some major offense or anything.
That's a good point you're making there.
Yeah.
About how sometimes people's pasts or struggles can overshadow the urgency of finding them.
Exactly. Fortunately, the police did eventually start investigating.
Okay.
Especially after they learned about Daniel's history of violence.
Yeah.
So they questioned him. And while he admits to the turbulent relationship, he claims that he hasn't seen Donita in weeks.
Okay.
And even suggests that she might have just run off.
His attitude and that fact that he changes his story about when he last saw her.
Yeah.
Really raise red flags for me.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like he's deflecting.
Trying to shift the focus away from himself, and Cedric immediately lawyers up.
Oh, really?
Refuses to speak to the police.
Which just makes the family even more suspicious.
Right, of course. And meanwhile, they're out there.
Yeah.
Desperately searching for Donita, putting up flyers, organizing searches,
right.
trying to piece together what happened.
Yeah.
And Daniel's out there taunting her daughters.
Oh my gosh.
Adding insult to injury.
That's awful.
Social media also becomes a double-edged sword for the family at this time.
Oh, how so?
Well, on the one hand, it helps them spread the word about Donita's disappearance.
Yeah.
And connect with others who might have information.
Right.
But on the other hand, it becomes this breeding ground.
Oh, yeah.
For rumors and misinformation.
Okay.
Which can be so damaging.
Yeah.
Like, the podcast mentions a specific incident where rumors circulated about human remains being found in a dumpster.
Oh, God.
And it turned out to be chicken bones.
Can you imagine that emotional roller coaster?
Right.
The false hope and then...
Yeah, and then the disappointment.
Crushing disappointment.
So amidst all of this chaos,
yeah.
Donita's daughters managed to access her social media accounts.
Oh.
And they discover something really unsettling.
What's that?
They find messages that Donita had sent to estranged family members.
Oh.
And the messages were very sentimental.
Okay.
It almost sounded like goodbyes.
It's like she had a feeling.
Yeah.
Something was going to happen.
It's almost like a premonition. Yeah.
Now, remember those phone pings in Southern Illinois?
Uh-huh.
Well, those become crucial when the police get a break in the case.
Okay.
Donita's phone records actually revealed a connection to a local motel in Evansville.
Okay.
And that's where a little bit of luck, maybe fate, comes into play.
Okay.
Because this motel, it wasn't anything fancy.
All right.
More like a budget-friendly option.
Okay.
But it had something crucial.
What's that?
Working surveillance cameras.
Oh, wow.
And that footage provides a really significant lead.
Okay.
It shows Donita arriving at the motel on Sunday afternoon in a silver 2004 Chevy Suburban with tinted windows.
Okay.
And she's with a man. They spend several hours in a room.
Okay.
When they leave later that evening, Donita has changed clothes.
Okay.
And has additional bags with her.
The change of clothes and the extra bags are interesting. It's like she was packed for a trip.
Yeah.
Or planned to be away for a while.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder. And are you ready for the bombshell?
Yeah, what is it?
The man with Donita in the footage is Cedric.
Oh, wow.
The same Cedric who refused to talk to the police.
Right.
And who Donita had expressed fear of.
That totally shifts the focus of the investigation. It's not just about Daniel anymore.
Yeah.
Now Cedric is like directly linked
to
where she was last seen.
And then another piece of the puzzle falls into place.
Okay.
A motel employee contacts the police.
All right.
After seeing a news report about Donita's disappearance. And remembers this seemingly insignificant detail.
Okay.
Donita had left her ID at the front desk as collateral.
Okay.
Because she paid for the room in cash.
So they still have her ID.
Right.
Meaning she never came back for it.
Exactly.
So where did she go after the motel?
Right.
With Cedric.
And remember those phone pings in Southern Illinois after the motel visit?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that both Cedric and Daniel had ties to that area.
Interesting.
So it suggests a possible destination.
Or at least a connection to someone there. Right. Okay, so hold on to your hats because it gets even more complicated.
Boy.
The police discovered that Cedric's 2004 Suburban, the same one from the motel footage, had been reported stolen in Georgia.
Wow.
Back in August 2020.
So like months before Donita went missing.
But there's a catch.
What's that?
The details surrounding this alleged theft are incredibly suspicious.
Oh, really?
Cedric's story just falls apart under scrutiny.
Okay.
There's no evidence to support his claim.
Like what?
No broken glass, no tire marks.
No signs of forced entry.
Nothing to suggest that there was a forced entry.
Interesting.
The police in Georgia didn't buy his story either.
Really?
They even threatened to charge him with filing a false report.
Wow.
But he never admitted to lying.
Okay.
And to top it all off, his insurance company paid out the claim.
Oh, wow.
Without knowing that the police suspected it was fraudulent.
So it's like he's playing a really dangerous game here with this whole car theft thing.
Right.
And like, what was the point of it?
It's unclear.
Yeah.
Now, despite all these developments, neither Daniel nor Cedric is officially named as a suspect. But in the National Missing Persons database, Cedric is specifically listed as a possible suspect.
Interesting.
So it seems like the authorities are holding back information.
Yeah.
Which, understandably, frustrates Donita's family.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Right.
It's the whole transparency versus protecting the investigation thing.
Right. You know, it's a tough balance.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the lack of answers just intensifies their grief as time goes on.
Of course.
Donita misses birthdays, holidays.
Right.
The birth of her first grandchild.
It's just heartbreaking.
It really is.
Thinking about all the things she's missing, and her family is missing with her.
And then tragedy strikes again in February 2022.
Oh, no.
One of Donita's daughters, Kiara, dies.
Oh, my goodness.
In a pedestrian motor vehicle accident.
This poor family.
It's a devastating blow.
Yeah.
You know, adding another layer of heartbreak to this already unimaginable situation.
It's just a reminder of the fragility of life.
Yeah.
And the impact of a missing person on those left behind.
It's a powerful reminder that, you know, these cases aren't just abstract mysteries,
right,
but they involve real human beings who are deeply loved and desperately missed.
Absolutely. You know, as we delve further into Donita's case, it's impossible to ignore the incredible resilience of her family.
It's inspiring, isn't it? Dealing with, you know, unimaginable grief and uncertainty.
Right.
But they channel that energy into action.
Yeah, they refused to let her case just fade away.
They understood that silence often equates to forgetting.
Right.
And they were determined to keep Donita's story in the public eye.
And their efforts were so important
in
keeping that pressure on investigators and generating new leads.
They even raised funds for billboards with Donita's picture and information about the case.
That's amazing.
So now let's talk about the February 2021 press conference.
Okay.
Held by the Evansville police and the FBI.
Right.
This was a big moment.
Yeah.
For both the investigation and Donita's family.
Yeah, it illustrates that balance that law enforcement has to strike between keeping the public informed and protecting the investigation.
And Donita's family was really frustrated with the delay.
Of course.
You know, feeling left in the dark for so long.
Right.
It's human nature to want answers.
Yeah.
Especially when a loved one is missing.
Exactly.
But, you know, from an investigative standpoint.
Right.
Releasing information too soon can have consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
Like tipping off suspects or jeopardizing the case.
Yeah.
But it seems like in this instance, going public was a calculated move to kind of breathe new life into the investigation.
Exactly.
And it worked.
It did.
Because the day after the press conference, they get that tip about Cedric reporting the Suburban stolen.
Right, right.
Which brings us back to Cedric's motive.
Yeah, what was he doing?
Why go through all that trouble to stage a car theft?
Right. Why not just stay quiet about it?
It seems like an attempt to create an alibi.
Yeah.
To explain away the Suburban's disappearance.
Right.
And distance himself from the investigation.
But it's risky.
So risky.
If he gets caught in a lie.
Right.
It makes him look even more suspicious.
Exactly.
And his insurance company paying him out?
I know.
Without knowing the police were suspicious.
It's wild.
It makes you wonder about their due diligence.
Right. Like, did they even investigate his claim at all?
Right.
And, you know, while we're talking about suspicious behavior.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about Daniel.
Oh, right.
Remember the police searched his house multiple times? They never found Donita.
Okay.
But then in October 2021.
Yeah.
His house burns down.
Oh, wow.
In a fire that's ruled accidental. But don't you think the timing is a little strange?
The timing is peculiar.
Yeah.
Especially with his history.
Right.
And the ongoing investigation.
Was it an attempt to destroy evidence, or was he just really unlucky?
Who knows?
It adds another twist
to
this already convoluted case.
Because every detail could be important.
Exactly.
Even the ones that seem unrelated at first.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Cedric's divorce.
Okay.
Remember, the police were hoping his ex-wife would cooperate with the investigation.
Right, because she might have been the woman with him.
Yes.
When he reported the Suburban stolen.
But she refused to speak to them.
Interesting.
It just adds another layer.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Was she protecting him?
Right.
Or was she scared of him?
Or did she genuinely know nothing?
Who knows? It's another missing piece.
And speaking of missing pieces.
Yeah.
Those Facebook check-ins after Donita disappeared are so unsettling.
Yeah, why would someone do that?
Were they a deliberate attempt to mislead the investigation?
Right.
Or was it a cruel prank?
It's hard to say.
Just adds to the family's pain.
Yeah.
Makes the search for answers that much harder.
It really shows the dark side of social media.
Yeah.
How information can spread so quickly.
Whether it's true or not.
Exactly.
So as we try to piece together what happened to Donita, we're left with several potential scenarios. Was she a victim of foul play?
Right.
Did she run away fearing for her life?
Yeah.
Or did something else happen entirely?
It's hard to say for sure.
But given the circumstances, Foul play seems like the most likely scenario.
It does.
The evidence pointing toward Cedric, the threatening messages from Daniel,
right?
Donita's own expressed fears.
Yeah, it all points in that direction.
But, we can't rule out those other possibilities.
Right.
Maybe Donita felt like she had no other choice but to vanish.
To protect herself.
Right, or her loved ones. It's heartbreaking to think about.
It is.
But we just don't have enough information to say, for sure.
And that lack of closure.
Yeah.
That's what must be so hard for her family.
The not knowing.
The wondering.
The what if.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
But their strength and resilience in the face of all of this is remarkable.
They haven't given up hope.
No.
And they're still fighting for her.
Yeah.
For justice for each other.
Their story really shows the power of love and family.
Absolutely.
And it highlights the crucial role that families play in advocating for their missing loved ones.
Keeping their cases in the public eye.
They've become Donita's voice.
Exactly.
Raising awareness, organizing searches, demanding answers.
Right.
Their efforts have kept her story alive and helped to maintain pressure on the investigation.
It's important to remember that these aren't just abstract mysteries.
Yeah.
But real people.
Right.
Whose lives have been changed forever.
It's a reminder that these cases aren't just about the missing person.
Yeah.
But about the ripple effects.
The impact on everyone they loved.
On their families, their communities.
Yeah, accurate.
So we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Donita Wilkerson's disappearance.
We have.
And as we wrap things up here, we're left with, more questions than answers.
It's a real mystery.
It is a mystery.
A lot of conflicting accounts.
And a family that just won't give up.
Right. They're determined.
They are.
We'll find out what happened.
So let's revisit those lingering questions.
Okay.
That continue to haunt this case.
Right.
Starting with Cedric. The last person we know of who saw Donita.
Yeah.
His behavior is just so suspicious.
It is.
Especially that scheme with the suburban...
Like, what was he thinking?
Right. What was his motive?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
Was there something going on between them?
Right.
Or was he involved in something that Donita wanted out of?
We just don't know.
We don't.
And then there's Daniel.
Right. The ex-boyfriend.
With that history of violence.
Yeah.
And those threats.
Those messages are chilling.
He wasn't at the motel.
Right.
But could he have orchestrated something?
It's possible.
Maybe using Cedric as a pawn.
The really twisted game.
Right, and we can't rule out other people being involved either.
That's true.
Maybe someone helped Cedric get rid of the suburban.
Right.
Or gave him a fake alibi.
Could be.
And then those Facebook check-ins.
Oh, those are creepy.
I know. Were they meant to throw off the investigation?
It's possible.
Or was it just a cruel prank?
Some people are just heartless.
It's awful.
It makes things even more difficult for the family.
So we have to ask, what happened to Donita?
The big question.
Was she a victim of foul play?
Right.
Did she run away because she was scared? Or did something else happen that we haven't even thought of?
So many possibilities.
So I think given everything we've talked about, foul play seems like the most likely scenario.
It does seem that way.
But we can't completely rule out those other possibilities.
No, we can't.
And that's what's so hard for her family.
I know that lack of closure.
The not knowing.
Yeah.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
But they're strong.
They are.
And they haven't given up hope.
So what can we do?
Well, we can keep Donita's case.
Yeah.
In the public eye.
Keep sharing her story.
Talk about it.
Encourage anyone who might know something to come forward.
Even the smallest detail could be important.
You never know.
And keep an eye out for that suburban.
Right. We have all the details about it.
On our website.
So if you see it,
report it.
Donita's case is still open.
And there's always hope.
That the truth will come out.
And until then, we need to keep her story alive.
Support her family.
Never give up hope.
And remember, Donita's story is a reminder about domestic violence.
It is.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing abuse,
get help.
Reach out for help.
There are resources available.
You don't have to go through it alone.
And if you're struggling with the disappearance of a loved one,
know that you're not alone.
There are support groups and organizations.
They can help you.
Give you guidance.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Donita Wilkerson's disappearance.
Thanks for listening.
Remember her name. Share her story. Never lose hope.
And if you have any information,
contact the authorities.